Well, welcome everybody to another market update for Crucible of War. We have a spicy week for you this week. Obviously, a lot of the print run information has changed a lot of the value of the cards. And I just want to say up front right now that we are still reacting. The market is still reacting to the news and to the information. So all these prices are probably going to be rapidly changing throughout this entire week. But right now, this is April 2nd, 2021. And this is the current market prices as they stand at this moment today. Before we get into it, I always like to highlight Mitch from the Midtown Merchant. Mitch has turned into a great friend. Me, Mitch, and George from Compete Sports all chat daily, and I just love to highlight their content and their stores. So make sure you go over to Midtown Merchant. Mitch has been generous enough to the channel to offer a promo code JustLove10. That's a one-time use for any viewers, and then as well as giving us a promo code to my patrons for 10% off every month on one of their orders. So I know Mitch has a bunch of cards that are getting ready to hit the market today or tomorrow, so make sure that you're shopping over at the Midtown Merchant. And then I also, if you want to support the channel, have a TCG Player affiliate link in the link in my bio or my description. Sorry, I always say that. So if you want to support the channel, you can do that. But if you really want to support the channel, and if you are looking for a collection tracker, the absolute best way for you to support the channel is on Patreon. And my Patreon has a bunch of perks. You can see there are a couple different tiers. There's a $5 tier that gets you access to the collection tracker. And then there is a $15 tier that gets you access to a podcast that's called If I Were Investing. And the collection tracker looks like this, and we're actually working on an update for it. But it automatically pulls the data from these update videos, so you can add in all your cards, and then every week your values will automatically update and you can see the value of your collections. I know a lot of people use this to help trade. They put all the cards in, they make a copy, and they can see the easy value of each side of a trade. So I think it's working out pretty well for people. So make sure you head on over to patreon.com/KitchenTableTCG if you want to support the channel, and thank you to all who do. Okay, without further ado, let's get into talking about Crucible of War. First off, things are just going bananas. They're going nuts. And so you can see back in December, we had box prices that were sitting at $129. We had a spike right here in December when it was kind of announced that Crucible of War was definitely going to be out of print. And then, as you can see, things kind of fluctuated into the $500 range. And then we saw at the beginning or middle of February that things hit to $750. And now we are just trending up. And with the market news and with the information that we've gotten in the last week, we were up around 15%. Right here is kind of where this information happened at the beginning of the update last week. And now the market has reacted by 15%. And you can see sold listings upwards of $1,000. And I think right now the lowest on TCG Player or on eBay is actually around $1,100. So the market's certainly getting ready to react, or certainly reacting to sealed product. And you'll see you can compare this percentage for your own, compare this percentage to the way other things are moving in the market and make up your own mind on what might be undervalued. But all right, let's get on over to the Fableds, the Arknight Shard. Okay, so the Arknight Shard, this week we're kind of going to go a little deeper and talk a little bit more about the specific things that are actually happening. And so we're going to look at the historical data a little bit more this week. So we kind of hit up to 4,500 and then it dipped down to 3,500, and it has been a complete flat line until this week. And now all of a sudden, we had a little uptick here, but all of a sudden people are like, okay, I need a shard. And we are up 41%. Now let's talk about this number where I derived 5,800. I know of two people that bought shards at various points this past week for 5,500. I do know that there was a 9.0 that sold for 6,400, and my understanding of the difference between a raw and a 9 is about that percentage that I added to it. But we are still seeing there are some that are currently on auction right now. 8 bids. It ends on April 9th for 5,300. So this is where I'm talking about making sure you're watching the market for yourself. If you own these cards, you're going to purchase them. This number can quickly go, from 5,800 to higher if one or two of them sell at the same price. So keep that in mind, that the market is still moving, but up 41% if you own an Arknight Shard this week at 5,800. And then also the other thing I want to say is that condition matters immensely. If you are selling a raw copy that somebody perceives to have a potential at a 9.5, then it's going to sell for higher than this 5,800% or dollars. If you have a copy that is, has a couple marks, it looks like mine, it has, whatever, you're going to be getting a little bit less than this, probably maybe like 52, 5,300. It all depends on the condition of the cards, as a lot of people are getting ready to send these in to wait the time to get them graded. Okay, let's talk about the legendaries. Just remember, if this is your first time on one of these videos, I put Twinning Blade in as a legendary because of the pull rate of it. It seems very, very rare to get. You can see our average legendary was sitting around $1,000 for a long time, and then over the last month, it is just anyway, it is just super increased over the last month. In particularly, Cheyenne was pretty stagnant, but then all of a sudden started really, really, really gaining value. Let's look at Cheyenne now. Cheyenne went from 2,600 to 4,000 to 5,700, and now sitting at 6,200. Let me pop up that sold listing for you. A sold listing at 6,200. A lot of people were watching this in the market. This was a huge discussion point. A 9.5 sold. Let's see, this week as well for 10,000, which is an amazing grade on a Cheyenne. But I just want to highlight here that this number moved up very, very quickly. And I think what is the perceived idea, I know there's been a lot of discussion on how rare is she? Is she as rare as the Spring Tunic? Or is she, I know the odds say that she is. I've been doing my if I were investing, I asked this question, like, what do you believe? Like, based on your own pull rates, based on what you've seen in the Flesh and Blood Unseals group, based on what you've seen on my channel, what is your perceived, like, I never pulled a Cheyenne. I had to buy mine. I pulled a Tunic and I pulled a Arknight Shard in my 23 boxes or something like that. And I know that's not enough, but a lot of people are perceiving Cheyenne's rarity to be upwards of the Tunic, or more rare than the Tunic, and I don't know if that's accurate. I have no knowledge about that. I just know I've seen a lot of discussion on the marketplace about it. And even months ago, even way back here, right, we had times where Cheyenne was creeping up close to the Arknight Shard cost, and people were saying, yeah, I never pull her now. I never pull her. I pulled more shards than I have Cheyenne. And so I think that might be what's driving the market a little bit on this particular card, is the perceived rarity of the Cheyenne. So again, I have no clue what the rarity is. I have had no other conversations, just what I've seen on Facebook and in the marketplace, but it does perceive that it is, and it's higher than the Shard, which is really the question I have here, is why is this card higher than the Shard and selling for higher? So that's a very interesting question. The Spring Tunic also up a little bit this week as more and more people realize that crew numbers are so much lower. And then the Twinning Blade, which has been one of the favorite cards of the community, I think, and one of those cards that's always been kind of one of those cool ones to watch. But one sold for, I think, 1,200, and I saw another one sell for, a bunch of them sold for 900 in the group this week as well. Somebody had posted, I think, 8 of them for sale at the same time, and they all were sold to the same person. So I kind of gave a little discount for that lot, and then there was one that sold for 1,200. I think that was on TCG Player, actually. And then, okay, let's go ahead and go over here because I wanted to show you the percentage change. So this week, Cheyenne only grew by 8%. Tunic grew 11%. But if you look week to week, Cheyenne had a huge growth last week. So if you look week to week at 4,000, I mean, these are huge growths. Whereas, I mean, if you compare from 3.6 to now, I mean, absolutely, this is, 250% growth on Cheyenne. So very, very interesting to see. And your average legendary or whatever in that slot that I call it is sitting at over $2,600, up 11% for those cards. All right, now this is where things get really interesting too. This is the cold foils. Keep in mind, you do have rare cold foils and you have the majestic cold foils. And in crew, my belief is that the rare cold foils are printed more often than the majestic cold foils. I think that's most people's consensus here. And we have seen a ton of increases all across the board board. And I thought this week it might be easier to show you the prices, but then also go ahead and show you the percentage increases of the prices. So Mandible Claw up to 150, Mandible Claw Reverse 175, those kind of fluctuate back and forth. Sledge of Anvilheim up to 200, Harmonized Kodachi at 175, Edge of Autumn at 125, the Zephyr Needle is sitting at 175 to 150. All these rare cards are seeing upwards, are pushing the upwards pressure to the 175 to $200 mark. And then all of a sudden Plasma Barrel Shot selling at 225, and there was really only one sold listing for it. And then again, Reaping Blade and Redliner. These three seem to always have a little bit more value than the other ones. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's just that they're played less. Played more? I don't know. They're not played more. Nobody plays the cards. I don't really understand what drives them up. I just share the market data for you. So maybe they just look cool. I know that Redliner has this really cool red cold foiling. It looks super cool. And Reaping Blade looks cool too. Anyway, tangents. But let's look at the average rate of increase. Talistar the Lost Prince pushing 200 too. Let's look at the average rate of increase here. I mean, you're seeing 38 to 40%, even upwards of 80%. Kind of your averaging out here, I think, is probably around 45% of an increase. And I'd love to compare that to what we're seeing as the increase in the Majestic cold foils. So let's look at the Majestic cold foils first, and then we'll go back to look at the increase. So the Skullhorn is sitting at around 390, Crater Fist at 400, Breeze Rider Boots at 445, Courage Blade Hold sitting at 850. I actually have a confession. I am the person who bought the $850 one. I actually sent my Courage Blade Hold in to get graded, and then I looked at the photos of it later, and I was like, oh man, that was a mistake. I need a better one. So I actually bought that 851. Viziertronic Model I is sitting at 685. My goal is that I will just sell the poor graded one to cover the cost of the blade hold that will be better graded. That's my idea. Anyway, Viziertronic Model I sold at 685, Perch Grapplers at 365, the Skeleta at 615, Metacarpus Node at 475, and Gambler's Gloves sitting at 596. Let's look at the increases here, because this is what I thought was really interesting. We're seeing like 14%, 25%. I mean, Viziertronic grew 61%, but your averages, other than a couple outliers, are way less than the rare cold foils, which were sitting at more like the 45 to 60%. And I just wanted to highlight that because it seemed interesting to me in the market that these aren't increasing as rapidly as these. And this is maybe something I should be saving for my If I Were Investing podcast, but I think there's other stuff that I want to share this week anyway that are even more important. But I just wanted to say that like the percentage increases of these seem lower in comparison to the rare ones. And this might just be that people, I guess this is a little speculation, the entry point for people in a cold foil at $175 is easier accessible than at like the $400 to $500 range. And that might be what's driving the increase in percentage. All in all, though, you're sitting at a 29% increase in the cold foils in Crucible of War, up to an average of all these cold foils is at 315. Now keep in mind that doesn't make the average that you get from a box 315, because you are more likely to hit one of the cheaper rare cold foils. So we'll get that to that at the end of the video though. Okay, if you want to see a graph, I mean, you can tell what it looks like. It was flat for a long time, and now it's going up. All right, the Majestic Rainbow Foils. So all in all, not a ton of movement on these. I mean, some of the more specific cards, like a Spoils of War, we had a Spoils of War I sell at $235. $225 is the current TCG low, and these are so difficult to find on the market too. They are so, and that's true for most of the cards that we're talking about today. It gets even harder for Arcane and WTR next week, or in the next couple of days. But Twinning Blade, also the rainbow foil version of Twinning Blade, seeing a lot of action lately. I'm not talking about the full art here, but for a long time this card was nothing and nobody had any interest in it, and now all of a sudden Matt Rogers put out a video, I forget who it was with, must have been with, I don't know, Channel Fireball, whoever, and he was talking about Twinning Blade and how great of a card it is, and I think that's really driven the price up of this card quite a bit. Spoils of War again at 225. That card is going nuts with Tower number 9 running it in the deck, I think, and Rob from Tolarian Dropouts. A lot of this skirmish stuff that we're seeing. One of the things I always like to say is that the players are really driving the price of cards, because that's what we're seeing with skirmishes, is that players are driving the price of the cards. It's pretty incredible to see. I guess it's not that incredible to see, but when everybody says, oh, it's just a blah, 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 like, it's so true here that, like, the players are driving the prices of the cards. So, okay, let's get into a couple other cards. Runeblood Barrier still seeing a significant increase at $69 for the Rainbow Foil. And this is a card that I just put out in a video today that I love this card in the Viserai OTK deck. It's a card I do think that could see some increases as that deck maybe gets better, and as any really controlled deck in a Viserai build. If Viserai becomes like a controlled deck in the next meta or something, this card I think could see a lot of increases, and I think that's what people are speccing on. I know I bought a couple copies a couple months ago or a month and a half ago as a result of that idea when that deck put out. I just saw how good the card was, and I think maybe that's still what's happening as people see that. Chain Lightning also going up a little bit, actually doubling in price here. And I have watched quite a few Wizard decks, and that card is fantastic. And again, I think one of the problems is people didn't understand how Wizard played, and now all of a sudden people are starting to get used to it and understand it, and they see how good the card is. And that might be why you start seeing some of these Wizard cards increasing in value. I mean, Gaze the Ages, a sold listing of a Gaze the Ages for $85 on TCG Player this week. So pretty incredible, again, to think about. And then, Aetherize, Coax of Commotion, a lot of the cards we used to see, Snag, a lot of the cards we used to see moving quite a bit, not moving as much as a result. And that might be because speculators already spec'd on them, and now they are just seeing the results of their specs. So let's go to Gorgonian Tome as well. Finally seeing some movement on this card. I know one sold for $300 on TCG on eBay, but there's one available for $240 on TCG Player. But this is a card that used to have a lot more value, and for some reason dipped down. I mean, this card was selling for $320, $270 back at the beginning of the year, and it's just kind of died in value, and now it still hasn't spiked back up to that price. All in all, though, your Majestic Rainbow Foils are sitting at around $58, and that's an increase of 20%. So let's go to the non-foils. The non-foil cards, some of them are just absolutely crazy. A lot of the equipment that is otherwise only printed in cold foil is just out of this world expensive, especially Courage of Bladehold, sold listing on TCG Player at $185. I don't know what else to say about this stuff. I mean, we had one style for $174 the other week, and then it kind of dipped back down to $138, but $185 is a huge number. And I know one of the biggest arguments for Crucible of War Unlimited coming out as soon as possible is that it's really a high entry point for somebody who wants to build a warrior deck and wants Courage of Bladehold, and $185 doesn't feel great. My answer to those of you who say that, it doesn't feel great, but you get a Rainbow Foil Tunic for the same price. I don't know. It's kind of an unsolvable problem. I have started using Spring Tunic in my Kasai build. I don't know. Anyway, this is not a deck tech video. This is the price. This is the market price. I don't have a solution, unfortunately. Unlimited can't come soon enough for Crucible of War cards. I can tell you that much. Crater Fist at $41. Breeze Rider Boots at $76. A lot of these cards, again, they're moving up. And then Spoils of War, again, if you're running a Dorinthia build, we need something to combat the Dorinthia build to make the price of these Dorinthia cards go down or something, because all of the Dorinthia cards are up. Spoils of War at $120 for the non-foil. I remember people when the foil version was $120 being like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. But Bloodsheath Skeleton at $125. Metacarpus Note. A lot of these equipment cards upwards of $100. And, it is what it is. This is first edition cards that people love and that people want for their collections. So I know a lot of people are trying to fill out collections, and these are some of the things that were harder to open as they were short printed. Gambler's Gloves at $95, and then the Gorgonian Tome at $51. Your average Majestic is sitting at $44, which is an increase of 35%. And you can just see, I mean, the market is really reacting to some of this information rapidly. So 35%. Now, I just wanted to go back and compare that just for you guys who are watching. Let's go back. Let's work backwards here. 35%, 20%. Cold foils are 30%. Legendaries at 11%. the Fabled at 41%. And let's get to the sealed box price. The sealed box price is at 15%. So I'm going to let you, this is again, I'm just sharing the market information with you, but you can see what is moving and what hasn't moved yet. The rares, remember, I just used TCG Player low on this. The rares have also moved 21%. That was for the rainbow foils, and the non-rainbow foils have moved 30%. Crazy. People buy in the non-foil rares too. I want to highlight always with the commons, we always try to hit the rune chant tokens. Let's see, we hit Seismic Surge is sitting the same. Ira actually lost value. Let's see, Whirling Mist Blossom. Where's another card? Where's the rune chants? I think they're still at $4 or $5. The copper at 15. Where's my cracked bauble? There it is, sitting at $70. It lost a couple bucks, but cracked bauble on there as well. Okay, let's get to the EV calculation. Keep in mind, you are going to get one cold foil. This price right here, 210, takes the averages of the rares and compares it to the amount of rares there are. Takes the averages of the majestic and compares it to the amount of majestics, and then adds that the rares are twice as likely to be found as the majestic. So your average cold foil will then be sitting at around $210. Your 6 majestics will get you $201. Your 2 foil majestics will get you $117. Your 41 rares will sit at $100. Your 5 foil rares at $84, and your chance at the legendary and chance at a fabled. That puts your box EV, again, if you were to open 40 boxes, your average price per box would be sitting at $1,122.57. I mean, absolutely crazy. The box prices if you were open 100. Now, if you just open one box and you don't hit the legendary and you don't hit the fabled, but you do hit a majestic, which is in my mind like a 1 in 3, 1 in 4 chance, you're still going to be sitting at $1,040. But if you open a box and you get the rare rainbow foil and you don't hit the legendary, you don't hit the fabled, your rare is going to put you at around $679.18. So let's go ahead and compare that to last week. Compared to last week, we were sitting at an EV sitting at an $894. This means that the cards have gained 26% overall compared from last week. Absolutely crazy. Your EV sitting at 1122. Let's take a look at the top 10 cards to gain or to lose value this week. Gaze the Ages, the Rainbow Foil, Majestic, going from 42 to 85. That's 102% change. Springboard Somersault, a rare that I didn't talk about, went from 35 to 70. That's a 97% change. And then Chain Lightning, going from 35 to 65. That's an 85% change. But tons of cards moving. A lot of the Rainbow Foils, but also sitting at 6 through 10 are all the cold foils. Very close behind at the 50 to 80% range. But it definitely looks like people were buying up the rainbow foils at a more maybe rapid pace, or maybe they were just less on the market or something. Anyway, all conjecture. Let's get to the non-foil gainers, all majestics here. Runeblood Barrier last week was a card that lost a lot of value, so this could just be like when I pull my data, there was a Runeblood Barrier for sale that was a bad price or something. But last week sitting at $20, this week at $50, that's a gain of 150%. Chain Lightning from 20 to 27, 140%. And Gaze the Ages popping up again, going from 22 to 24, 22 to 46. At 109%. Rattlebones and Bloodsheath Skeleton also on that list, pretty close behind at the 85 and 84%. And Rattlebones, I thought that made the other list too. It did not. Okay, let's go to the cards that lost the most value. Really, I mean, 17% is nothing. Stamp Authority, Flood of Force, and Data Doll all lost some value, all around 15%. Really nothing. Even like Cash In, the rare, like it lost 12%. But you know what? Like this is like the zone of percentages here. It can just fluctuate based on when I pull my data, especially for those cards. The rares are just like the TCG lowest prices. The rest of the cards I actually look up on Discord and all the marketplaces and Facebook and eBay and all that stuff. So the non-foil losers are Heron's Flight, Mangle, and Remorseless. Again, not significant losers as the market is moving so rapidly. So all in all, that's where the market is. I think at this point it's crazy to me that you could right now still have some arbitrage, even with I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Like, even with $1,000 boxes, you still have a pretty good shot of getting arbitrage on your box EV if you trust my numbers. So if you do trust my numbers, I really believe that my collection tracker is a great source for you to track the value of your collection. It just costs $5 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/KitchenTableTCG, and you will have access to all that stuff. And in addition, you get a discount code from Midtown Merchant. You get access to my Discord community, which has been a really, really great thing, I think, for a lot of people. And you get access to box breaks and case breaks at a $5 discount, but the public never even gets access to them anyway because it sells out before 5 minutes anyway. So anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Remember to be kind to the people around you, and let me know in the comment section what you've been buying, what you've been selling, if you have Crucible of War cards, or if you've been specking on anything as well. I always love to hear your thoughts, and we'll see you tomorrow for Arcane Rising and the next day for WTR.